everybody, it's Miss Lisa, and I'm back with another art tree lesson for you and your parents. This is Art Tree Goes Almost Live, and today we're going to be talking about lines. Artists love using lines, and I'm also going to tell you about an artist named Vasily Kandinsky. This session is inspired by his work. These are pieces that I did as an example, but you will find that his artwork resembles these in some way because he didn't paint things that you would recognize. He did at first when he started painting. He painted flowers and he painted landscapes and people, but as he painted more and more, he decided that he loved the lines, the shapes, and the colors, and he started painting things that were not recognizable. And this became known as abstract art. Now, what I want to do to start with is teach you something about lines. We all think we know what lines are, and normally when we think of lines, we think of maybe a straight line that goes like this. Okay, that is a semi-straight horizontal line. I could have made it a little bit straighter, but you get the idea. We also have vertical lines, which are more standing up lines. So you might think of the horizontal line as being a laying down line and the vertical line as being a standing up line. Then there are diagonal lines, which are not standing up and they're not lying down. They're kind of in the middle. And diagonal lines remind us of energy because you think about something perhaps falling over just a bit. There's a lot of energy in diagonal lines. These are straight lines. We also have curved lines. We might think of a line that goes like this, or like this, maybe like this, or like this. And some of these lines might remind you of letters. A U is actually a curved line. A C is a curved line. And let's move on to angled lines now. Angled lines start off one direction and then the direction changes. So there's an angled line. Here's an angled line. Here's an angled line. Here's an angled line. And some of these lines might remind you of symbols that we use in math, or again, letters. Here's an angled line that is also a V. Now, if we start connecting up some of these lines, let's see what happens if we connect up, for example, these two curved lines and we repeat them. Curved line up, curved line down, curved line up, curved line down, curved line up. We get a wavy line. And if we just connect them up, 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 we get something we could call a bumpy line. If we start connecting up the angled lines, let's see what happens. I know a lot of you know what this is called. This is a zigzag line. This is a horizontal zigzag line. We can also make a vertical zigzag line. We can make a diagonal zigzag line. Now, if any of you saw my previous YouTube video, you will know that the zigzag line is also the one that we made with the paper strips when we folded them forward, back, forward, back, forward, back to make stairs. So stairs in paper sculpture are the same as zigzag lines. Now when a line comes back to itself, it makes a shape. So let's think about a curved line that comes back to itself. It makes a shape. And this shape we know is a circle. If we take an angled line that changes direction once and twice and comes back to itself, it makes a triangle. If we take an angled line that changes direction 1, 2, 3 times and comes back to itself, it makes a square. We can also think of a curved line that comes back to itself in a more oval shape. We can think of angled lines that come back to themselves in maybe a rectangle shape or maybe a different sort of triangle. Okay, so these are all things you can do with lines. Now these shapes here that we've made are geometric shapes. They have names like circle, triangle, square, oval, rectangle, and another triangle. But sometimes we have lines that come back to themselves that don't have names when they make a shape. Okay, this is almost like a flower. It's almost like a puddle. What about something that looks like this? It could be a leaf, or we could call it a splat, but they don't really have names. These shapes don't really have names, but they're often kind of rounded, and they might remind us of things we find in nature, and so sometimes they're called organic shapes. Now let's think of a couple more interesting lines. If you have a line that's made out of little lines like this, this is called a dashed line. And if we have a line that's made out of little dots like this, this is called a dashed line. Okay, these are straight, but perhaps we would want to make them in curves. And there's Miss Lisa's favorite line, which is a spiral. So as you can see, there's many different kinds of lines in art, and artists love to use lines. And we are going to use a lot of these lines that I just taught you to make a beautiful piece of art. This art is based on the artist Vasily Kandinsky. Okay. So let's talk about Vasily Kandinsky briefly. He was born in Russia in 1866, and as a child he loved to paint and draw. He also loved music. He was incredibly musical, and he thought that music and color were connected within himself. He loved music and he loved art, and he studied to be a lawyer. He, at the age of 30, was offered a teaching position, but he turned it down because he decided at that point he wanted to learn to paint. And he painted at the beginning things that looked like flowers, or things that looked like fruit, or things that looked like landscapes. But as he painted more and more, he started painting lines and shapes and colors. He came up with some beautiful art, and these paintings are now known as abstract paintings. And so I'm going to show you how to do a piece of art in this abstract fashion. And we are going to be using lines. Now to make the lines, you might want to use a dark pencil. This is my favorite 6B pencil, very dark. You can use maybe a black crayon. You can use maybe a black marker pen. You can use colored pencils, but I'm going to be using my 6B pencil. Now I'm going to use my black crayon. Okay, and let's just start, and we'll do this together, but yours does not have to look like mine. So when I say let's draw a horizontal line, I'm going to draw my horizontal line here. But maybe you want to put yours here, or maybe you want to put it up here. You put it where you want, but let's make one horizontal line. And let's make it pretty long. Okay, not a little one, let's make it long. And then we're going to add a curved line. I think I'll make a curved line here. but you might make your curved line here. It might go another direction. It might be up here. And then let's add a vertical line. Remember, the vertical line is a standing up line. I could put mine here. Maybe I'd want to put it over here. If I put it here, it's going to overlap the curved line and the horizontal line. If I put it here, it won't overlap anything. But what I want to do eventually is have my lines sort of overlapping and joining up. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. So go ahead and put a vertical line where you want. And let's make 2 more curved lines. So let's see if we can make 2 curved lines that are not like the one you made first. I made this one first, so I think I'm going to want to try maybe this one here. And maybe I'll make one here. So you go ahead and make 2 more curved lines. See if you can make them all different. These are mine. Okay, and after you do your curved lines, let's put in 2 diagonal lines. Remember, the diagonal lines are the lines that have a lot of energy. And I'm going to put one here. And I'll put my second one here. Okay, you make 2 diagonal lines. And you see how my lines are starting to overlap now? And actually, all the lines I have at this moment are all connected. So if you're making little lines, make them bigger because we want to see that overlap. And I'll show you why in a minute. So now we have some straight lines. We have a straight horizontal line. We have a straight vertical line. We have 2 straight diagonal lines. And we have 3 curved lines. Let's make some angled lines. So remember, the angled line starts out one direction and then changes direction. I think I'll put one here. And again, I'm trying to overlap now things that I've already drawn. So you do the same. See where you can find some overlap. Did I say 3? There's another one. That's 2. And I'm going to put one here. So there are 3 angled lines, 1, 2, 3, and they all overlap something I've already drawn. Okay, at this point, I'm looking to see that I've got my lines overlapping and I don't have too much empty space. You can see some empty space here and here and here, but these places are starting to fill up, and I like that. It's going to all be joined together. So now what we're going to do is put in some special lines. So let's start. Remember when we joined up the curved lines? Curved line up, curved line down, curved line up, curved line down to make a wavy line. Let's put in a wavy line. Okay, and I'm also going to put in a bumpy line. The bumpy line goes bump, 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 bump. So I'm going to put a bumpy line right here. And I'm going slowly and I'm thinking about it. And I'm trying to get those to overlap something. And you see I'm making fairly large lines. I'm not making little lines. I want to fill up my paper as much as possible. And now I'm going to think about some shapes. I think I'll put in, let's put in a triangle. I'm going to put my triangle here. Okay, you put a triangle anywhere you want. And I think I'm going to put a square here, but you can put one anywhere you want. Mine actually looks a little bit more like a diamond shape, but that's okay. And I think I'm going to put a circle right about here. And I think I want it to be a little bit bigger than my other shapes. So go ahead and put a circle in somewhere in your beautiful piece of art. And then what I want to do with the square is actually divide it into smaller squares, kind of like a checkerboard. This is something that you will find in Kandinsky's paintings. He liked to do things like this. We're going to go ahead and put in a checkerboard. So in your square, just divide it into smaller squares. So now we have some geometric shapes, and we're going to make some organic shapes. Remember, the organic shapes are kind of, maybe they might remind you of a leaf. It's a line that sort of comes back to itself, but it doesn't have a name. The shape doesn't really have a name other than to say it's an organic shape, and I'll put one here too. It's almost like the shape of a puddle or maybe a leaf. And then what I want to do now is I'm going to make some smaller shapes. I'm going to make some, let's do 5 small circles anywhere in your art. Maybe they are not overlapping. Maybe they're on their own. This one's out on its own. I'm going to put one here that's going to overlap. There's 2. If I put one here, it's going to overlap lots of things. 3. That one's not overlapping anything. And this one is overlapping my angled line. Okay, so you make 5 small circles. And then what I'm going to do is maybe make 7 small triangles. Let's try that. They can overlap something you've already drawn, but they don't have to. So for me, there's 1, 2. Look at this space here. I want to divide that up a little bit. 3, 4, 5, 6. One more for me. Let's put one here. 7. All right. So now we have quite a collection of lines. And what I want you to do is look for the cool shapes that you made. The shapes are in between the lines. Things that you probably didn't realize you made, but that you made by accident. For example, I made a really nice triangle shape here. Can you see? Nice triangle shape. I made a little rectangle here. It's right there. And I made another triangle here. I made a half circle here. I made a little baby triangle here inside my bigger triangle. And same here, I've got a little triangle inside this big triangle. And so what we can do now is we can start looking for the shapes between the lines, and we're going to color them with crayon in different colors. If you do that, it will turn out something like this. Or you can use paint and it will turn out something like this. Now I know you all know how to color, so if you want to color and you have color crayons, go ahead and start looking for the shapes in between the lines and see what you come up with. If you're going to paint, then I will show you the proper way to use watercolors. So what we need for watercolor painting, and you can see that I actually used a plastic storage container lid to contain my watercolor paint tray, my two cups of water, a little piece of paper towel, and again, here's my paint box. And in the paint box, the colors in this Crayola paint box, just to let you know, yellow, orange, red. The black is always next to the red. And then going the other direction from yellow, we have green, blue, purple, and brown. Now sometimes the purple and the black look the same when they're dry, but just remember the black is always next to the red in these paint boxes. Okay, so what we're going to do, and all of my kids that have had me before will know that Miss Lisa will want to start with yellow. And the reason we start with yellow is because once we get our yellow onto the paper, it will be nice and bright. But if we go into any other color first, it's very hard to get the little leftover paint out of your brush by washing it in the water, and then you'll start getting other colors into your yellow, and at that point your yellow will never be bright like this again. So the way to keep your yellow bright is to start out with the yellow. And I'm going to paint everything on my piece of paper here that I want to be yellow. I'm going to paint everything yellow first that I want yellow. And the way we resuspend the pigment to make these liquid paints is to take our brush, and again we want to rinse our brush out really well. And I always use 2 cups of water when I actually paint as an artist. I know in schools we don't do this because we don't have time, but at home, if you want to learn the proper way to rinse out your brush, you would rinse it first in water and then again in the clean water, and that way you keep your brush super clean, because this one here is always the very clean water. So now I'm going to go into my yellow paint, and I'm going to go round and 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 round in that yellow paint. And what happens is that the pigment, which is the part that gives the paint color, will start to become liquid in that paint pot. And we can now paint with yellow on our piece of artwork. So I'm going to be looking for different places that I want to put the yellow, and I'm going to paint everything yellow that I want yellow at the beginning. So I'm looking for shapes between the lines. Here's a little square, but here we have a little triangle shape. So I'm just going to put yellow in that little triangle shape, and there's another one there. I like that one. And here's a shape here. And I'm going to paint part of this triangle yellow. And I think I'll paint that little thing yellow. And maybe this little baby triangle here, and half of this circle. Now notice how gentle I am being with the paintbrush. You never want to squash your brush into the paints or into the water or onto your paper, because when you squash the brush, it bends all those bristles and eventually they fall out. And it's hard to use a paintbrush when the bristles are all bent or they've fallen out. And it also makes bristles end up in your painting, which is frustrating too. So we're very careful with our paintbrush. I think I'm going to put a little yellow there. And you see how my brush is starting to dry out? I don't have as much paint in it now. So what that tells me is it's time to go back into the water and back into the paint box, and I'll take that yellow and I'll go round and round and round until the paint is liquid. And then I can go back onto my painting here and fill in some more places with yellow. So I'm doing all my yellow first. And I think I'm going to make some more of these pieces yellow as well. I'll take that little piece there, and maybe here. I like that one there. Okay, I'm going to have a look, and you see how I spread that yellow around my painting? You don't have to do that, but I like to spread the colors out. And so I'm pretty happy with this arrangement now. So I'm going to rinse out my brush. And at this point, I'm done with my yellow. I'm not going to go back into the yellow. I'm done with yellow. I've rinsed out my brush once. I've rinsed it out twice. I'm going to tap it on the paper towel. And I'm going to go into orange now, because orange, you can see we're done with yellow. We're going to work into the orange because that is not a very, very dark color. Yellow is the lightest color, which is why we start with yellow. I'm going to go round and round and round and round in that paint until my orange is now, it has some liquid paint in it. And I'm going to choose all the places that I want to have orange. And I'm going to paint those now. So see how gentle I am with my brush. I'm being very gentle. I'm just pulling the paint along. I'm not squashing my brush at all. Here's an interesting shape right here. Do you see that triangle there? I made that one by accident. I like that shape. I think I'll make this orange here. I'll do half of this circle orange. And look at this very interesting shape. I like that one too. Make it nice and bright. Now my brush is drying out. You can see there's not as much paint in my brush as there was before. And if I keep working like this, I'm going to start scrubbing my brush. So that means I go back into the water and back into the paint and go round and round and round and round and round. And now I've got lots of liquid paint on my brush, and I can pull the color along. Gentle, gentle, gentle. I'm going to do that little triangle there. And I'll do that little piece there. Kind of like this shape too. That's an interesting one. See, my brush is starting to dry out again. There's less paint to pull along. So that means I go back into the water, back into that paint, and go round and round and round and round and round. Now I've got lots of paint to pull. That little triangle. Oh, I like that shape. Look at that one. And I think that circle. And this piece here. And I'm looking at where my orange is. I think I need some right here as well. Okay, my brush is starting to dry out a little bit, but I'm done with the orange, so that's okay. I'm going to rinse my brush round and round and round in that water, a little bit in the clean water, touch it to the paper towel. And I think I'm going to go into red now. So round and round. When I touch it to the paper towel, I'm actually looking at what the color is. When I touch the paper towel, if the purple comes out, that tells me my brush isn't clean enough yet, and I go back into the water, rinse, 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 back into that water, rinse, 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 and try again. Okay, now I've got red, so let's see where I'm going to put the red. I'll do some red here, and I'll do some red here. I'll do some red here, and I like this shape here. Let's make this one red. Now you can see where I touched the orange with my red paintbrush, the colors are going to run just a little bit, but that's okay. It's no problem at all. You can get some pretty interesting mixes by accidentally touching two colors close to each other. So I'm just not going to worry about it. Here's a nice shape here. And let's see, I think I'll make that little triangle red. And let's go for this here. This is a very interesting shape. Again, between the lines. What do I see between the lines? My brush is starting to dry out just a little bit. Back into the water, back into the paint, round and round and round. And let's see. Ooh, this is an interesting place in here. I think I'm not going to put red here because that will be right next to that red. I want to put a different color in here, but I can put red here. And I'm going to put some red here. And I think I just want a little bit of red down here, so I'll make that red too. And then I'm going to rinse my brush round and round and round. And into the clean water, round and round and round. Touch it to the paper towel. I don't see any red coming out, so I know it's clean. And now I'm going to go into the green. Let's go into the green. Round and round and round in the green. You can see my green is close to the orange, so there's going to be a little mixing there, but that's okay. You can see I've still got green in my brush there. But that's okay because I'm going back into the green. And I've got some big shapes in here. I don't need to color them all. I can leave some of them white. But I like this one here. I think I want this one to be green. Let's make this big shape green. And I'm going to make this big circle green too. I like this green color. And then I need a little bit of green over here. I think I'm going to put some here. Yes, I think this whole shape is going to be green. My brush is drying out. Back into the water, back into the paint. And I think this little part of this triangle here as well. Okay, rinse out brush. Rinse it in the white, then the clean water. Touch to the paper towel. And now I'm going to go into the blue. Round and round and round. Let's see where we can put some blue. I want to put some here. I will put some here. I will put some here. And I will put some here. Here. I think I'm going to make this big part of this triangle blue. I like this blue color, so I'm going to put a little bit in here. Actually, I like all colors. I don't have a favorite. I love color. Perhaps that's why I love Kandinsky's work so much. I love lines and shapes and colors just like he did. I think I'm going to put just a tiny bit of blue right up here. Okay, next color in the paint box is purple. Rinse out brush. I'm going to take a look at that purple. Okay, I'm going to start by putting a little bit of purple in here. think we need a big purple shape right here. Again, more water into that paint. Now I don't have to paint every single shape because the ones that I leave unpainted, some of them can be white. And if I use a background color, I can fill in some of the shapes with the background color. But I think what I'm going to do with this one is not put a background color. I like it pretty much just like it is. So what I've got here now, I have got a beautiful abstract piece of art in bright colors. I have not used black or brown, but I have left some of these shapes white. White, white, white. This big shape here is white. This shape here is white. There's a little triangle, a little piece of circle here, a little piece there. And these white shapes are fine. I like it like this. You may choose to fill in a lot of those shapes with a background color, like in this one. I used brown for most of this, so here's a brown shape that I added here, although the outside is all brown. This is actually a brown shape that's been painted as well. And then some places I still left white. When you want white in a watercolor painting, you don't use white paint. What you do instead, if you're painting on white paper, is just leave those places unpainted. And that's how you get white with watercolors. Okay, well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed your Kandinsky inspired painting or coloring. So again, here's one done with crayon. And again, you can see that little checkerboard shape there. Here is one done with watercolor that has the background painted as well. And here's the little checkerboard. And this is the one I just did for you now. That is a painting but does not have the background color added. And here again is your little Kandinsky checkerboard. I hope you enjoyed that, and until next time, happy painting and happy drawing. Thank you.